people don't plan to fail, they fail to plan. And maybe that's why you're here. This is one of those discussions that can be a little scary. There's so many folks across America that have had their loved one cremated and the person is still in the shelf or in the closet for years.
My uncle's ashes were sitting around for so long they got misplaced a few times.
So I'm creating the worst case scenario. In the event you didn't have a special document that I'm going to talk about, I would need the majority of your next of kin, your 3 adult sons, to agree to that cremation. And if they didn't, I could not proceed with your cremation. Oh, wow. And it could be a mess. To me, there's kind of 4 reasons to pre-arrange, or 4 versions of pre-planning.
Welcome to the Digital Legacy Podcast, where we talk about death and dying in the digital age. If you ever asked, how do I protect myself and those I love if something unexpected happened to me? You're in the right place. I'm your host, Niki Weiss, and together we'll explore how to protect yourself in a world where both your physical and digital legacy leave a lasting impact. Hey, Matt. It's good to see you.
Niki.
Hey.
Welcome to
Thank
Noggles.
you.
Come on in. I wanted to show you a little around before we sit down and talk. Have you been here before?
I have, but Chuck, this is your first time.
Okay. It is a funeral home. We like to think it's a little more modern looking, more of an event center, a hotel conference center than a funeral home. I think we've achieved that. I'm going to show you around a little bit and then we'll sit down. So this is our main event room. I say events because folks these days sometimes want something religious, sometimes more of an event. Life celebration, another term we use, memorial service. This room can be made to be anything you want. Right now it's set up in a chapel formation for more of a traditional service. But other times we'll have 10, 15 tables, round tables, and have more of a life celebration concept with food and beverage. We do that now. Around the room you'll see screens where we have various montages and movie reels, if you will, of the deceased. So let's say your loved one liked knitting, baseball, if it's a man, fishing, hunting, what have you. We'll ask for pictures of the deceased, maybe 5 to 10 of each hobby they have, for example, make them into a little movie reel, if you will, and that's done here on these screens throughout the visitation or service. Oh. So this is a room where we have events all the time for folks from the community.
That's awesome.
How many people does it fit?
So about 150 to 200, depending on the situation. So right now it's probably about 150, but we could put more in the back. It could be standing room only sometimes, but we also will webcast the services throughout the building and to those that couldn't make the service. Oh. So we have a lot of technology here. We have probably more technology than most funeral homes. So sound and visual and slideshows, etc.
So you can totally webcast this out.
Yeah. We're kind of geeked out on technology for
that's
end-of-life events. Yeah.
If people are out of town, they can't make it.
Exactly.
I just can't make it.
Since COVID, there's more and more of that. So yeah, there you have it. Niki and Chuck, welcome to Noggle again. We're sitting in our gathering room here to talk about pre-planning for both of you. Matt Grieco, longtime funeral director. I've been doing this 25 years, and this is one of my 2 locations. I live and work in Kennett Square as well. Here at Noggle, we're very proud of our operation here, our facility, and the services that we offer. You may be a little bit familiar with it. I invite you to look at pre-planning, this discussion, a little bit like estate planning, living will, power of attorney, just getting your affairs in order kind of thing. And maybe that's why you're here, is just to kind of finish getting your things in order. People don't plan to fail, they fail to plan. I like that line in life. And so this is one of those discussions that can be a little scary. We try to demystify funeral planning, funerals in general, end-of-life planning, make it meaningful for you. So I hope this is a good discussion for you. Before I ask you a few probing questions about kind of your experience with loss, funerals, your thoughts about your own form of disposition, we call it. I do need to disclose to you that the FTC, Federal Trade Commission, monitors our profession since the 80s. They got involved. Back in the day, there were some bad apples in our profession and ended up realizing that we need to show a menu of our fees so people can realize what the cost will be compared to other firms. That's your right, legal right. We disclose to folks all the time. And so all that means is this document here called a general price list will go home with you today. Anything we talk about, we'll probably offer you a quote for the various services that you're thinking of for the future. Anything on that statement of goods, we call it, would match what is in our menu of fees, our general price list. Part of my job, nobody wants a funeral, let alone the fees that go with it, but we want to follow the funeral rules, they call it, and disclose to you now. So I tend to say from there that cremation services, if one is choosing that, are anywhere from 4,000 to 10,000 roughly, if folks are choosing cremation, and we'll talk about a little bit about the options within cremation. Traditional burial with our firm is anywhere from 12 to 15 these days. So again, all of that will be itemized on a statement that we would offer you at the end of this discussion, but I want to disclose that to you. Okay. So my next piece of this discussion typically is, what is your experience with funerals, with funeral homes? Have you done this before? Have you prearranged someone's funeral before?
No, I haven't prearranged anything. Have you?
I've never prearranged. I've post-arranged.
Okay. And that's more typical.
Yeah, I post-arrange. And I guess your mom was the last one to leave us.
Yeah, my mom was the last one 2 years ago.
Okay. And was she buried or cremated?
Cremated.
That experience, was there a ceremony? Was there a minister?
You rented a minister.
We
A
rented
rent-a-minister.
Yeah,
Rent a
that's
Funny,
minister.
we use that term as well.
We
No
rented a
disrespect to our
minister,
ministers.
and we had a little gathering
It
there.
was right after they opened up from COVID. So
It was right after
I think it was
COVID.
one of the first events, non-masked events that we went to.
Okay. And so it was a memorial service at the funeral home or at church?
At the
At
funeral
the funeral
home.
home.
Yeah,
Especially if it's rent-a-minister. Okay.
yeah.
It's probably-
And then my father is going to be, my father's 94, and when he passes there, he's going to be interned at the Veterans Cemetery in
Oh,
Washington
sure.
Crossing.
Yeah.
And since they're both cremated, they'll allow both of them in.
And they'll both be buried at the same time
Yeah.
at the Veterans Cemetery. It's a nice offering that the veterans,
Yeah,
a perk that they have.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
great. Yeah.
No, so
Nikki.
right now she's sitting on your sister's mantle somewhere.
Yeah.
probably in storage right now, because
Right.
my sister's in the process of moving.
There's a plan for the ashes.
Right.
There's so many folks across America that have had their loved one cremated, and the person is still in the shelf or in the closet for
Yeah.
years. It's a real
Yeah.
issue. So.
My-
Collecting next to the cat and the dog
Correct.
and
Yeah.
the, right?
It's a whole nother story.
My uncle's ashes were sitting around for so long, they got misplaced a few times,
Got it.
and then they finally were found.
So you touched on rent-a-minister. So I want to touch on that just for a second. It's one of the unique things that we do here at Noggles is offer celebrants, certified celebrants. I'm one of my staff is a celebrant. What that means is especially for folks that maybe don't have a religious connection or minister connection, church connection, but still want to have an event that is really about the person's life story, that's what we do. And so it's been very well received by our client families. And so if you, as a couple, aren't connected per se to a church or have an officiant at your time of passing, that's something we can talk more about as well.
Right.
So yeah, we're here to talk about your wishes, your thoughts. I'm here to educate you a little bit. Let's start with you, Chuck. So I believe when we were talking on the phone, it might be cremation that you're thinking of, or
Definitely cremation.
Okay, cremation.
Yeah.
I'm going to quickly segue and say that when we talk about rite of disposition or the various forms of disposition, the one I didn't mention is green burial, and so that's a kind of a new but old concept. It's from the beginning of time. Man buried their dead very simply. But in the last 200 years, we'll say that embalming, caskets, and all those things came about. Green burial is now making a comeback, if you will. And so I share this with folks that are interested in cremation, just to have in their back of your mind, because others are finding interest in this and potentially switching. And green burial is laying the deceased in a 3-foot grave, not 6 foot, in a shroud or wicker basket to allow the body to go back to its elements very quickly. So I just throw that at you. It may be the last thing in the world you were even thinking of, but as when we make these arrangements, it's good to have it on file, etc. Sometimes thoughts change, and so I just want to make sure you understand the third form of disposition these days is
All right.
green burial.
Okay.
So throwing that at you.
Is it true that some states allow you to bury on your property?
Technically, yes, you could be buried on your own property. It's generally folks that have a larger property, horse farm owners, etc. They're probably going to keep that property in the family for many years to come. They're not selling it, and that's really the issue, is the resale value. So if you were buried on a 2 to 5 acre plot, for example, are you going to disclose that your loved one's buried there when you sell the property?
Right.
So yes, you can technically do it. You go through your local township supervisor to get permission, but it's the resale issue. We're hoping to launch a green cemetery here at Noggles in the next couple of years, and we're working on that initiative. And there's another 12 cemeteries in the state that offer green. So that's green burial, very briefly.
burial.
But let's talk more about cremation. So at the moment, cremation is what moves you in terms of your form of disposition.
Sure.
No time soon, by the way. There's no openings for you right now. I always try to ensure you that this is not going to jinx you. This is to get your affairs in order, but to live your life and not worry about it. Like your relative service recently, where there was a rent minister, it was in the funeral home. Did that resonate with you? What was good? What was bad about it? What was your loved one's story shared effectively at that event?
I think it was shared pretty well, don't you think? Or no?
Do you remember? There were a couple wonky things about
There's
that.
a couple wonky things that happened, but
Got it.
yeah, it went. I would think it went rather well.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, the problem with the celebrants is that they're just there's not necessarily a family connection,
Correct.
right? So, but at the same time, you want someone who has some professional and maybe some spiritual.
Right. And that's where we elaborate, or let me elaborate what that celebrant does just for a moment. So versus some of the ministers, not all, we actually take 2 to 5 hours of time with the next of kin to get to know who you were. And then we document it and put it into the story.
Right.
So we make a lot of effort to make sure that person's life story is captured. And the comment that we get often is, wow, you clearly knew Bob. And I said, no, not really, but we just put a lot of thought into it and we got it right.
I've been to ceremonies where they have the video, and I think that's really neat. I think that's very
So
effective.
for webcasting, for example?
I'm just saying,
Oh,
like
the slideshows.
The slideshows that are
Okay.
going on. I think that's been really great. A couple of funerals that I went to that had that.
Yeah.
That's a nice touch. I think it lets people come from all walks of life in that person's life.
Correct.
You know what I mean?
Correct.
And they'll see the pictures up there, and that'll resonate with some of the
It
people.
really does. Pictures spell 1,000 words, as they say.
Right.
So that's one of the things, I'm glad you brought it up, that we do very well as well, is capturing pictures and creating meaningful personal tributes, whether it be handouts or the slideshows, as I showed you earlier. One of the things that we give folks, both pre-planning and at time of need, is what we call our family planning guide. So this will go home with you as well. And if you had died today, we would have given your next of kin this document. Pre-planning is just as applicable. And it kind of helps you walk down memory lane, start to locate those pictures that are applicable to you and your family. And then at the time of passing, we use that data to create slideshows, props, a whole number of props that we can create through a local partner called Life Celebration. So it's another piece of what we do, is the props and the things that help us grieve and remember. Our motto, by the way, here is we empower people to grieve effectively so that you may heal and ultimately become productive in your life again, because grief is such a debilitating thing typically. So that's kind of our mission statement. It is our mission statement here. So I touched a little bit on cremation versus burial, a little bit what an event would look like for you. Might be a celebrant. There might be some props involved. Those are things that we can make note of because it seems to resonate with you. The other piece of a pre-arrangement today and ongoing, and this will be the first of probably a couple meetings that we have with you, is to say that we're going to give you some homework to record some of your vital statistic data. That's things like private information, social security number, date of birth, name, those kind of things. This document right here is what I'm referencing. We call it our arrangement conference guide. We would send this home with you. We could actually email you a link where you could input that data securely online, like a doctor's office. All that data is going to be used for the death certificate at the time of passing. Some of it's applicable to an obituary, so this form and online gives you an opportunity to type in some of your thoughts for an obituary. And so this is one piece of what pre-planning with us looks like as well. So that's that. The other piece of pre-planning with us that many choose to do, not required, is pre-funding one's funeral. So let's talk a little bit about that. So every funeral home, most funeral homes across America either offer insurance, a special life insurance policy to park the funds for the person, or trusting. So they can take the funds for the funeral for you at today's rates, put that amount into a trust that they manage or a fiduciary manages, or they put it into insurance policy. We use insurance. The insurance company we use is called Homesteaders Life. They've been in our profession for probably a couple hundred years at this point, been a long time, one of the first. They exclusively work in the funeral profession. And the way that mechanism works is that, let's say that our funeral fees are $7,000 today for cremation services for you, and you chose to pre-fund today. We would give you a statement of goods and services that lists what our fees are today based on our general price list. We put that amount exactly into an insurance policy. We'd ask a few questions. We're licensed in insurance to be able to provide it. That policy then would be filed. You'd get a copy of it. And over the next years, it would grow with interest. And that interest is designed to cover any increases that we might have in our fees. So we're able to guarantee our fees in the future at today's rate. So let's say 10 years from now, you pass and our funeral bill is $8,000 and the funds and the insurance maybe are only $7,800. So we're $200 shy. We absorb that difference at the time of passing.
Okay.
The only thing we don't guarantee with pre-funding is what we call cash advances. So cemetery fees, death certificates, an obituary in a local paper, those are all fees out of our control. And so those would not be guaranteed. We'd still put funds towards those fees, but if they're $800 and our growth is $750, you would owe that $50 difference for example, like the obituary or a cemetery fee.
Gotcha.
The other thing about pre-funding is that these policies are 100% transferable. I die, go out of business, you move, whatever reason that you end up needing to use a different funeral home at your time of passing, this policy that you have is transferable 100%. It's the funeral home that performs the cremation services that will file that death certificate, and that death certificate becomes essentially the ticket to liquidate the policy with that insurance company.
Oh.
So you're not locked in with me. Yes, you're locking my rates, and the other funeral home that you go to may not honor my same fees, but it usually behooves them to do so, and many will, but there might be something less or more depending on their prices. So it's 100% transferable. It's certainly a peace of mind for your next of kin. They don't have to worry about it. Your wife, your adult kids. It's often a surprise to them sometimes. They're here at the table, Dad passed, and I can say to them, listen, it's all taken care of financially.
And my uncle did that, and we were shocked. We didn't know he had done it.
How about that?
And someone said, you know what, we should call the local funeral
Just to make
home.
sure.
And they were like, oh yeah, he prepaid this like 15, 16 years ago.
We have families calling and say, hey, we think Dad pre-arranged and pre-funded. We don't know which firm. So we're calling around to all the funeral homes to see who's got his file. So we have that sometimes. So yeah, it's a nice surprise for your next of kin. So locking in today's rates, peace of mind for your next of kin, 100% transferable. And the last piece is this Medicaid resistant, I'll call it. So Medicaid is when, God forbid, someone spends down all their assets to be covered by the government in a nursing home. Okay, that happens sometimes, but some of us are out living our money, unfortunately. And in the case, when that happens, the Medicaid officials will help you spend down your assets. So let's say you're nursing home for 3 months, you're using your private money to pay for your monthly fees, and now it's gone. Now you're a Medicaid patient, okay? So if that happened and you hadn't pre-funded your funeral, it's now on your next of kin. What I'm saying is if you had funded the funeral before you ran out of assets, before you became Medicaid, that funeral policy would not be considered an asset for Medicaid purposes. So Medicaid would be glad to see that, okay, you've paid for that, we can't touch that, I'm glad you have it, and move on.
Right.
So that's really the fourth reason.
It's a huge benefit.
It is. And many people don't know it. Sometimes, sadly, the Medicaid officers don't mention it.
I mean, I would think that would be, hey, by the way, as you're going through this burn down money, why don't you go get that life insurance policy
Correct.
to make sure that the
Correct.
family's not stuck with,
That's right.
$10,000
That's exactly right.
funeral expense.
So those are all the big reasons to fund. People fund at various ages, right? So some will do it midlife, some will do it in their 60s and 70s, and others may wait till the last 5 years as they, realize this is an event that's coming sooner than later.
So are we in that, we're not midlife anymore, I guess.
Yeah, right.
Because we're in already.
Yeah, to me,
What's the average age people walk in?
the average age is probably 65 to 70, 75. So yeah, you're right in that area.
So people walking in under 60, 70?
Not as often, yeah. So in terms of funding it, but having this discussion, we're seeing a little bit more of that.
That's neat.
So from a recommendation, I mean, if we're gonna tell other people, like, hey, we just did our pre-planning,
Yeah,
you
right.
should go try it, you know, at what, and we don't tell our children that are in their 30s, but do we tell our siblings and?
I think so. To me, and I may have said this earlier, but I want to repeat, there's kind of 4 reasons to prearrange,
Right.
or 4 versions of pre-planning is kind of what I say to folks, is it's having a discussion with your next of kin, your spouse, at home, privacy of your own home, your adult children, your brother or sister, those that are going to be left when you pass. Saying at the very least that my wish is cremation or burial, or the third option, green burial. If you've done that, you've done more than many. And so God forbid you pass the next day, at least they heard you say, I want a cremation.
Right.
Because there's nothing worse than being left with that decision to make one way or the other. And we see the stress on folks when they didn't know what their husband, brother, sister wanted. So that's number
And the
one.
decisions that have to be made after, I mean.
That's right.
You know,
Yeah.
my husband just died and now you want me to make
Yeah.
color choices?
Well, that's right. That's right. And so they're just in shock
Right.
when it's sudden.
Right.
So you're dealing with sudden loss, let alone all the business tasks to take care of, from the estate to where's the next, we're losing his paycheck, to you name it.
Oh.
Let alone the funeral arrangements.
Right.
And yet the funeral, as by definition, as I may have also touched on, but I'll repeat it, is the first step in the grief process.
Right.
Psychologically, it's been proven. Having that event, whether it's a week after the passing or 2 months, doing something is better than nothing, and allows us to take these first steps in the grief process. So yeah, sudden loss, you just can't even get your head around planning that important event. And that's what we do, and we pick up the pieces for folks that haven't done that, and we're able to navigate that. But certainly this discussion today that you're having with each other and with me, which is the second version of pre-planning, is meeting with me, right? Getting some thoughts on paper, being educated on what we do, because a lot of people really don't know what funeral homes do per se, let alone what a funeral event looks like. And so we're here again to talk about that, and that's why there's many discussions. Probably this is the first of many. And then the third or fourth piece is, funding it, should you wish to do that. And I think that's all over the board. But people more nearing retirement age, maybe there's fixed income, maybe there's not. Maybe CDs are coming due, right? So maybe other assets, and it's a topic that you have. Maybe that's the time to fund. We definitely recommend that you talk to your financial advisors, as you look at your assets in retirement. Understanding that I will say some financial advisors don't get or understand what funeral policies are, and then they shy away from it, which is not good, because it's a blessing to folks. It has growth. It's not like you could put your money somewhere else and maybe get a better return, but you also probably need conservative places to park the money in retirement, and this, I would say, is conservative yet secure. So, throw a lot at you there.
No, it's all really good. It's a lot of information to take in. It's a lot to take in. I understand why people shy away from the conversation, right? I mean, you're talking about death and money, and it just sometimes doesn't feel right, and at the same time, it's like, better talk about now,
right?
When he's here, or when I'm here, then.
What are your kids? You have adult children?
We have 3.
Okay. They know you're having this meeting tonight?
Yeah. The girls know?
It's Father's Day, so we'll make
Right.
sure that we will share that information
Father's
on
Day.
Sunday.
My son called me up earlier today. He says, "What are you doing?" And I said, "My wife and I have a hot date. We're going to the funeral home."
Talk about a hot topic, cremation.
All right, but it's,
I got it.
my final playbook, right? So they know what my passion project is.
And my son said, "Of course you are."
Of course you're doing that.
So our kids are in their 30s. We have
Okay.
grandchildren.
The reason I ask, in part, is that often kids in their 30s, they'll say, even 40s and younger, and their parents are prearranging or contemplating this topic, and they'll say, "Dad, I don't want to talk about it. You're not going to, I don't want to talk about it." And unfortunately, that's because I think the younger generations, again, don't go to church, right? A lot of us are not church like we used to be. We all grew up going to church, but our kids certainly not as much. So they're not used to what ceremony looks like, what loss looks like, a funeral. What's that? What's a funeral? What's a ceremony?
Right.
And so, absent that, talking about death is a even more completely foreign topic to contemplate.
Mm-hmm.
So your kids, now I know you're interested in this topic, but
Right. But when you spoke, I mean, is this something that you've talked to Mac about?
Well, I mean, I think it's a little different. We,
Oh, and we do have his and her children, so.
yeah,
there's
so
a
my
separate-
son's from a previous
Yeah.
marriage. and
marriages,
my,
they
yeah.
call it? Yeah.
Yep.
So my son grew up in, we had a sled dog kennel. So we had 16 or 18 dogs at some
Oh
point.
my gosh.
And we probably have 15 of them buried in the backyard
Oh my
at this
gosh.
very moment. So
That's his experience.
his
with that.
experience with death, every couple of years we lost a dog because we would
Yeah.
spread the ages out purposely.
Sure. Oh, I see.
And we did very green burials with them. We actually
Sure
buried
did.
them about 3 feet down to make sure they would disappear quickly.
That's right.
And we bumped into some of them, you know. And
The
they're-
bone fragments, yeah.
there's very little left after like 2 years, 3
And
years.
you already know what green burial is.
Yeah, it's I think my son probably has a better grip on it from that experience.
But have you talked about
Your
your
own.
arrangements?
Right.
I told him I wanted to be cremated. He seemed fine with that.
Yeah. It didn't
We didn't.
come out.
I didn't grow up in a religious household
Yeah.
in my house, and neither did my son. The girls grew up with a little bit more religious structure than my son did, but yeah, I think he was.
I think this is also.
Also, my wife has been involved in hospice.
I understood
And she's
that,
getting
yeah.
involved with this, My Final Playbook, and
Yeah.
I think, that's when he said, of course you did, because, I'm
Yeah,
married
yeah.
to Nikki.
I mean, from where I sit, I feel like because he has a son, I feel like I want those arrangements to be made now by Chuck
Yeah.
instead of Dad's dead and then he and I have to look at each other.
Right.
And
Right, to look at his son, your stepson, and
Right.
figure
and
this
it's
out.
like right, and I just feel like don't put us in that situation. Have Chuck come in and say, "This
Yeah,
is what I
my-
want.
and
It's
my-
documented and it's clear cut."
Mm-hmm.
And then my stepson and I could just go through the grieving process instead of
Exactly.
having to make
Yeah.
those joint decisions, which might not.
Coincide.
Maybe
And he's
not.
busy, he's got a young family, he's
right.
got 2
so
little
his
girls,
attention span might not be there.
And Nikki, you're touching on something that I may not have touched on earlier that is very important, and that is that while these arrangements are here to be used by next of kin, it's very helpful, it's a guide. I often also caution families to realize that the next of kin that are surviving you at your time of loss need to do what they need to do as well to grieve their loss of you, right?
Right.
So this is all in place. It's great. We know that you have the wish of cremation or burial. It's cremation that you choose. They at least need to know that. They should honor that. They will honor that. We're going to talk about another document to ensure that in a minute. But let me say it this way. The creation of the event, whether it's the funeral home, the backyard, a country club, if I invite you to be open to, they might want a venue and a look to that service that's a little bit different. And that's okay, because funerals are for the living as much as they are for the dead. Now, the thought about, or you have thoughts on that? Do you have questions about that? Because that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. I
Yeah.
can see that being kind of fluid.
Yeah, having them involved is kind of what I'm saying.
Right.
So we get this on paper, but I want their input as well. Because the act of planning your event, your memorial event, life celebration, whatever we call it, the act of planning it is very cathartic for the next of kin. But I also touched on something just now that is very important, that has evolved in our profession over the last 5-10 years, and it's cremation liability, I'll call it. Meaning, when you pass, we know it's your wish of cremation, but by law in Pennsylvania, I have to have your closest next of kin agree to that cremation as well.
Wow.
So if you had, it can be a sticky
Yeah.
situation, as you can already imagine. So let's say you have, that Nikki's not with you, that she has predeceased you. And you have, let's say, I know you said, how many sons again?
1.
Okay, 1. But let's say you had 3, just for discussion purposes, 'cause I want to illustrate the point. The majority of those 3 sons would need to agree to the cremation. If 2 of them wanted you to be buried, they are trumping the 3rd who wants you to be cremated.
Wow.
Even
And I-
though he has it documented that he wants
Unless you have a
cremation?
document.
Oh, unless you have it documented.
Yeah,
But once-
so I'm creating the worst case scenario. So we're gonna nip this because that's why we're talking about it. But in the event you didn't have a special document that I'm gonna talk about, I would need the majority of your next of kin, your 3 adult sons, to agree to that cremation. And if they didn't, I could not proceed with your
wow.
cremation. And it could be a mess, yeah. So what we are using much more often now, almost every funeral prearrangement for cremation, is a covenant called Statement of Contrary Intent. States that the next of kin authorize your cremation. So this document says, contrary to the law, I am asking my neighbor Bob Smith, for example, to authorize my cremation. So, contrary to the law, statement of contrary intent. I am making sure that I'm going to be cremated by signing this document. Having it in your will is also helpful, but not quite enough. And so, statement of contrary intent, and I'll share that document with you to have at home and share with others should you wish, because it's an issue.
And then that document would button up and ensure that his wishes.
As long as the neighbor signed off on it.
So yeah, even with the one adult son, it's just good to have it as a form of business, dotting our T's or crossing our T's, dotting our I's.
Right.
Okay. On that note, a similar issue is what to do with your ashes. So if you didn't document that, and now the kids have you on a shelf at home, Niki's not with us, for example, or is your family arguing over what to do with the ashes? We'd like to have that in writing as well.
Okay.
So that statement of contrary intent, I probably will say, in addition to, I want to be cremated, and this person's going to authorize it, I want to document where my ashes are to go. Now, it can be a cathartic decision as well for the next of kin to decide. But at least say scattering, interment in the cemetery, or buried in a niche, or kept in my son's closet for perpetuity. At least make one of those decisions.
And make him carry it around the rest of his life.
Or that, yeah, exactly. And you can imagine the stories I can share with you. Yeah. So that's my way of saying, what are your thoughts at the moment for your ashes?
I think we designate a place for them to be scattered.
Okay.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Oh, dog yard. He's going out with all the dogs. We joke about that, but I think that there's some
Makes
truth to
sense.
that.
Yeah, your dogs are buried in the backyard. Yeah. Now, what if your adult son or next of kin wanted to take a little bit of dad and go on a trip and scatter at the ocean, another place that he liked, for example, right? So you see a lot of that. Keepsake urns, which we'll show you in a few minutes in our merchandise display. There's a lot of memorialization ideas, especially around ashes, that we'll show you.
My uncle, when he died, he had set money aside for them. He lived in Florida, and he was a travel agent.
Okay.
He set a funeral for a boat to take them out to the warm water of the Bahamas. And pour the ashes in the water and a bottle of Chivas Rig on a carton of Lucky Strikes, which is what killed him, the carton of Lucky Strikes.
Touche. But make it an event. And I always say with scattering or whatever you do with the ashes, make it into a meaningful event.
Right.
You know, I use the word cathartic. Is this helping us grieve? Is this helping us in our grief journey? And it can make it a moment, and those tears are healthy. Tears, laughter, whether it's awkward or not, embrace the moment. Yeah. Niki, I'm focusing a lot on Chuck today. We just kind of migrated to him. We can have another discussion another day about your arrangements, but questions so far from both of you at this point?
No, I think it's going to be important just to document what you want, and I also think documenting ahead of time allows the family members not to have to make those decisions. It's hard to make those decisions when you're grieving.
Yeah.
So, just once you've made the decision, discuss them. Like, don't let it be a surprise. Hey, by the way.
Yes.
Right?
Well, and I'll go one step further, and I kind of touched on it earlier. So when we're all said and done, we've had these arrangements buttoned up. Yes, you say to your next of kin, both sides of the family, I've done this. The funeral director gave us some good things to think about that are maybe still percolating. But one of them was, he said that, that you all should be involved in my event when I pass. And while I want cremation, and we've talked about an event with potentially a celebrant and the pictures and all the things you see at funerals, he had good advice that you all should be involved in that. And I don't want you to be scared of it. Let's embrace that this happens, and grief will occur, and grief will subside with a good event.
There you go. You better not die before me. I married young for that specific reason.
When we bring the deceased into our care, we actually have put a special bracelet on them as well. This talks to the identification of the deceased. When I talk about liability, that's one of the areas that we're hyper aware of, where the deceased is in our care. So this barcode concept with the bracelet on the deceased allows us to track where the decedent is in our facility at any time. Okay, so when we bring them into our care, they're in refrigeration care required by law. Let's say 4 days later the cremation is going to take place. and we would have a picture, the barcode, move them towards our crematory, which we'll show you in a few minutes. And every step of the way, just like a surgeon, what are we here to do? Who is this? Are we cremating? Yes, we are. So we're very deliberate and very particular about the chain of custody of the deceased. So in this room, we have other merchandise. So urns, of course, for those that choose cremation. Anything from vases to wood to keepsakes. Many of these urns have matching keepsakes. So this is probably a 14th, 15th of the amount of ash of a human. This would be approximate full amount of what the ashes would be. Over here behind the door, we have a new concept. It's called parting stone. And so this is pretty cool. About 5-6 years ago, a gentleman in California invented this, where they now are taking the ashes and they're solidifying the remains, as they call it, with a resin and invention that he came up with to make more of a stone of mom's ashes, for example. And it's about 25 stones in various shapes and sizes and colors that the one's ashes can become. And so now they're solidified.
Oh, wow.
So that's an interesting concept. And to feel them, it's kind of like therapy stones or some of the other things you've seen. Mm-hmm. Some folks will put them in a jar. Some folks might have them in their garden. But it's another concept. There's something for everybody. Mm-hmm. So that's parting stones is what that's called. This is glass, or ashes again, blown into glass. Okay? So there's 4 or 5 different vendors in the market that do that. And you pick a color. There's a light that shines up underneath. And we've had many families that have done this. I did this for my father last year who passed. That is not my father. Yeah. So this is, and we don't have a specific example per se other than this picture here, but this is taking the ashes of someone and incorporate them into a ball with peat moss and other components to allow the ashes to be the nutrients of a tree. So when people say, I want to be a tree, unfortunately, we don't have the deceased intact to become the ball of the tree. It's the ashes that we incorporate into some peat moss and some other components, buried with a seedling, and it becomes a tree. So that's what this is illustrating here. And there's various vendors in the market for that as well. Okay. Over here, we have some other things to show you. So these are miniature vaults. This would not apply for a cremation client, someone who's choosing cremation, but this would be miniature examples of the vault that encapsulates, or encases rather, the casket in a cemetery that requires a vault, which most cemeteries still do. So that's more applicable to families choosing traditional burial. On this wall, we have more examples of ashes blown into glass, keepsakes that are more jewelry, necklaces.
Is this a motorcycle?
And this right here is
a motorcycle
urn.
Tank?
Yeah, it's an urn.
There you go,
shaped
Chuck.
into a motorcycle tank, gas tank.
That's cool.
There's another one.
Yeah, we've provided that a couple times to folks, and that's an obvious selection for those who like motorcycles. Sure. One guy liked ducks, let's say, and hunting. That would be appropriate, maybe not. Veterans. We didn't even touch on veterans too much, but we certainly give tribute to our veterans who have passed. I'm a trumpeter, so I like to play taps for our veterans when I can at the memorial service or the graveside. We certainly would have a flag adorned on their casket for the ceremony, the graveside. We would engage the military from their branch of service to offer the honors if they so choose. Veterans are also entitled to a bronze marker or a granite marker in the cemetery, or to be buried, like your family, at a veteran cemetery around here. It's Washington's Crossing that is closest to us. So that's what the flag is suggesting, and here's some examples of military ceremonies with military attending.
Interesting.
This is a picture of what it looks like at the graveside, where the vault would be on display at the graveside ceremony with the casket there ready to be lowered into the grave. So keepsake jewelry. So again, some are blown glass to make a jewelry item. Others are silver or gold that also can be opened to place a small amount of ash in the jewelry. Okay. Here's some urns that dissolve. After the ashes are placed, a family wants the ashes to go back to the earth from which they came. These type of urns and bamboo would dissolve into the earth, and that's a green way to allow your ashes to go back to the earth after cremation. Go ahead. Questions of the stuff in here? All the items in here. These are scattering tubes. So, back in the day, we would give mom back to the next of kin, and they say, yeah, Matt, we're going to go scatter mom in the backyard that she always loved in her garden, and they have a plastic bag, and it was a mess. Now, you can imagine, we'd have wind, rain, all kinds of elements, and the family's gathering to have this moment to scatter mom, and it's a mess. And maybe there'd be some giggling, but at the end of the day, it was kind of awkward and just not as dignified as it could have been. So our profession has come up with what we call scattering tubes, and these are designed, this is a smaller amount, this is probably a fifth, sixth of what ashes would be for an adult cremation. And the tube would come off the top, we would perforate a little spot here, and it would allow you to scatter the ashes in a more dignified way. So scattering tubes is what these are. So yeah, as we talk about where you'll be scattered and those kind of things, this might be something that your kids would select and leave it to them. It's probably not resonating with you right now which one you pick, maybe it is, but those again are some of the examples of letting your family participate.
Yep, that'd be great.
So there you have it.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Talk about educational. I mean, we didn't get into the caskets, and that probably
Just touched on it, yeah.
Touched on it a little bit, but wow.
Why don't we now make our way into one more room while we're still talking, and this is our observation room, if you will, our witnessing cremation room, and I'll describe that when we go in there. So follow me. So a couple things exist in this room. You see that we have this bed here, a sleigh bed. And another funeral home, frankly, actually, in Pennsylvania came up with this idea probably 10, 15 years ago. The family came in to say goodbye to mom one more time before she was to be cremated. And the family said, I really want to see mom again in a bed. And the funeral director said, fine, I'll make it happen. That's a good buddy of mine in Reading, Pennsylvania. And so they brought in a sleigh bed, and it became a tradition. That folks that are choosing cremation, why not offer them the opportunity to say goodbye to their loved one in a bed versus a table, which with a pillow and blanket and drapes, which is also another option that we would offer. But the bed has been well received as another option. And so we simply clean, bathe the deceased, have their eyes and mouth closed a little bit. I mean, not a little bit, but actually closed. Not embalmed is what I've.
They're not embalmed.
Right.
So this has to happen fairly soon after, right?
So 24 hours after death, one must be refrigerated, buried, cremated, or embalmed. So we have all those options on site here. In this case, it would be refrigeration care after the passing. So let's say 24 to 48 hours later, we would have mom come out of refrigeration care at our facility here, close the eyes and mouth, bathe them, have maybe in her nightie that she liked, and then have her placed here in the bed for the family to come in and have a private goodbye. So that's what this is, okay? In this same room, if you turn around here, you'll see this observation window. Probably not today we'll do a different segment on the crematory, but in the other room here is our crematory. It's called a retort. And so we've offered in our profession, it's been done in Europe for many years, but in our profession now we do it here in the States. We call it witnessing cremation. I compare it to lowering the casket into the grave. The family decides to wait and see the casket lowered. Well, here you get the opportunity with cremation to see the deceased in a cardboard vessel or cremation casket placed into the retort. Not at a direct angle, you're not seeing flames, it's just almost like seeing the casket lowered. We're going to see the deceased go into the retort. Family would have a moment, we'd probably do a little prayer. We would then start the cremation. The door would close and the cremation would start and the family would adjourn. But this room is also to witness cremation.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, not for everybody.
That's a lot. That's a lot to take in.
Those that have done it, we're glad that they did, because often folks, again, in this country, it's somewhat new and they don't realize that's an option. When we explain it, they maybe be a little hesitant, but then when we show them the room, that we've made it nice, and we explain that we compare it to other forms of participation in our grief, like lowering the casket. It resonates, they do it, and they're glad they did. It's kind of like seeing it through. I brought you into this world, I'm going to see you out, or vice versa.
Right.
So it's been well received. Yeah.
Well, this has been amazing, just to demystify the whole.
That's my goal.
You're dressed like Not like a mortician. I don't see any blood. I mean, your shoes are even blue. It's like...
I try to be a little bit more relevant, so you can see folks that today I'm kind of dressed casually, business casual. We usually say to folks, hey, I'm not dressing up in my suit and tie today like you would see me in a official funeral ceremony. And the families often say, Matt, that's kind of why we're here, and we didn't want a creepy old funeral director, and we didn't want, no offense to other funeral directors, but we try to
normalize.
dial it down.
Normalize make it less, right?
Well, heck, in some of the obituaries we write these days, we'll say, please come in your favorite Jimmy Buffett shirt, for example, if he was a Buffett.
Oh, that's
fan,
awesome.
Right? So themed funerals. So if I were to be in a suit and tie, like I was raised to do in this profession, today it's a little different. I think people resonate with more of a theme and more casual.
Right.
So, but certainly we want to accommodate.
So I have to start thinking what your theme is going to be.
Yeah, what's your
theme? Funeral.
Your clothing theme.
Well, Matt, thank you so much.
Thank you
Very much. Appreciate that time.
Good to be with
All
you.
good.
Continue this discussion.
Thank you for listening to the Digital Legacy Podcast, where we talk about death and dying in the digital age. I hope this conversation inspired you to take control and plan for the inevitable to protect yourself and those you leave behind. Don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter at digitallegacypodcast.com. Remember, life is full of surprises. What happens after you die shouldn't be. So keep your passwords safe and your playbook up to date.